Good morning to Coffee with Kelly. My neighbors came over last night, Bruce and Maureen, and we were in a discussion, and I made a statement, and what I said was, both of my children, Sean and Laura, are both alive today because of prayer and answered prayer. And that is an absolute fact. I've been a prayer chaplain for many years as well, and I woke up at 4:15 this morning with this on my mind and wanted to share my thoughts about it. It's a very important subject that I have some experience with that I think is important to share. I think that's why Spirit was getting me up so early with this on my mind. So, first of all, as far as a personal story, my daughter drowned when she was 1. She was dead. She was on life support. And I in the past have not really shared this story with a lot of people, but I did write a draft story about it, which I am going to attach through a link at the bottom here in the description field. It's called The Resurrection, so you can click on that story, and that's the story of her miracle recovery. My son, likewise, when he was probably 16, 17, got involved with all kinds of stuff that kids do at that age with drinking and drugs, and he was really out of control. And if it wasn't for answered prayer, again, he would not be with us today. So the most important thing that I want to share is that I don't think people realize the power that prayer has. Some do. There's a great quote that I'm going to read by Alfred Lord Tennyson. He was the poet laureate of the United Kingdom during much of the reign of Queen Victoria. Bear with me a sec. And he still remains one of the most popular English poets today. His quote was, and you may have heard this before, "More things are wrought by prayer than this world dreams of." And this morning I kept going over the word wrought in my mind. That's a very interesting word to pick, and so I looked up the definition of it. And when I read these descriptions of what wrought means, I want you to ask yourself the question, who's doing the wroughting? Who's doing the shaping and the forming if when we are praying we have lost all control and we are giving this over and asking for help? So wrought means to be shaped by hammering with tools used chiefly on metals or metalwork, made delicately or elaborately, having been worked or prepared somehow, formed by work or labor. And I think it's interesting that wrought, basically you've heard of wrought iron fences. It's primarily used with metalwork. Metal is a very, very hard substance that doesn't give. And I think it's interesting that that was the word that was used, because many times when we are reaching out in prayer, it's because the situation is so set, is so rock hard, that we really need a miracle. We need something that can bend that situation that we have not been able to bend, that we are not in control over, especially when we are asking for miracles and overcoming the laws of physics, things like this, which absolutely is possible. And I like this idea a lot because I have seen this happen many, many times. The story of my daughter coming back to life was a real life miracle in this day and age. And there are all kinds of them, actually. There's some other stories and people that came to mind when I was thinking about this morning that I think is an important relationship, and that is the idea of our own beliefs. So I'm going to also attach a couple of videos from Greg Braden. I read a book many years ago of his, and it was called Spontaneous Healing of Belief, Shattering the Paradigm of False Limits. And he talks a lot in there about how a lot of the ancient texts talked about this power that we have all within us to heal our own bodies, to influence the world around us, and it all happens through consciousness and our beliefs. And there's another great movie that I'll attach below that you can check out called I Am. I think there's a trailer for it out there. It's by Tom Shadyac. And again, it has a lot of these same principles and ideas, scientific proof now that we live in a participatory universe, that our thoughts and our expectations of the outcome of those events make a difference. The reason why prayer is so important to this is because when we are locked into our misery, to the fear, always the fear of the situation, whatever it is, the thing that we're praying for, because we're reaching out in prayer, we're opening our heart and we're opening our mind to the possibility that there is another answer and another fix. And always what we're really doing in prayer, and this is an important distinction, when we pray, we're connecting at a heart level with the answer. We are asking for peace at that very moment in the middle of that really shitty situation. And by receiving that peace, by receiving that answer, by opening ourselves enough out of our fear to listen for something else, that is the answer to prayer itself. To the extent that we can trust and open ourselves that way, that I do believe has an impact on the extent of the answered prayer. Meaning, it's not something that happens outside of us necessarily, although there are forces that do help us, but our own healing is the primary factor, absolutely the primary factor that must occur for prayer to be answered. So what I mean by that is, let's say that I'm praying for money. Let's say I'm in a really bad financial situation. What's causing my money problem is my belief in the problem. It's my belief in scarcity. It's my belief in lack and limitation, or self-pity, or poverty. And it's all of this stuff that I have around the idea of money that needs to be healed. So what I'm doing when I'm asking for money in my prayers, or whatever the thing is, it doesn't matter, what you're really asking for is to be healed of your belief in that separation, that you are somehow separated from your abundance, from your goodness, from your prosperity. And when you allow that through prayer to feel that peace, then that is the catalyst that then goes out and reworks the molecules and the atoms of the universe to reflect it. Our entire physical life, being, and experiences are nothing more than the reflections of our internal consciousness. That's why prayer is important, because we are shifting our consciousness, therefore changing the world and the things and people and relationships around us. So another attachment from Greg Braden that I'm going to put on here that really highlights this concept and this truth is, he went to a hospital in China, and it's a video of an instantaneous healing of a person with bladder cancer, where they put the whatever the machine is, the sonogram, on the cancer. They did some chanting, and they watched it just disappear instantaneously. And what those practitioners were doing they were living in the space of already healed. They were bringing, again, that consciousness to the situation that they are already healed. Jesus did this constantly when he performed his miracles. And basically it is the affirmation that it's impossible to be sick, it's impossible to die, it's impossible to be poor. And it's those beliefs that need the healing. When we do not share the beliefs of the world, we are recreating the world. So when you see someone with a broken leg, our role and our task as miracle workers and as people of power and prayer is to look on that broken leg and say, the problem isn't the broken leg. The problem is my mind that believes in brokenness. and to allow that thought to be healed so that we can be at peace. And that's just a small example of everything that we look out on: war, poverty, famine, the horrors of the world. When we see those things, when they disturb us and distress us, that is an opportunity for us to say, oh, look at my errors out there. That's all they are, is errors, and opening yourself to room for correction. I think that's all I'm going to say about this right now. I would just like to say that as a prayer chaplain, I used to pray with people at church all the time, and go to hospice and hospitals, go to people's homes if they needed it. And it's amazing how it works. I don't know how else to say that, because if you haven't done that type of work, you have no idea the power that it has in people's lives. I seem to always be called, I used to call myself the angel of death, because I always showed up, particularly at hospitals and hospice, when people were pretty much ready to die and transition over. And there's a unique role in that I do feel on some level that a person can't check out unless they have permission from someone here. So I seem to always show up when the family couldn't give permission for that person to go, to bless them and to say, it's okay, you can go now. Likewise, when we are in the lives of those we love, if we do not give our permission for the errors to continue, on some level they have to be healed. Whether we see it or not, trust me when I tell you, if you go into a situation and somebody's complaining, wah, 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 poor me, this, that, the other, wah, 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 look at my life, it's so terrible. And you don't have to say this out loud because they'll think you're insane. But if you quietly within your own consciousness say, you are healed, you are fine, you are perfect, you have all the money that you need, or whatever their problem is, and you do not agree with that, because we're all connected, your lack of agreement with their error is the impetus for the healing that then occurs within yourself first, always, and then it can be shared with them. When they're ready for it, their consciousness will open up to it and they'll be healed. So give the gift of prayer as often as you can, which is the gift of healing yourself, really. And as you continue to heal yourself through connecting to the truth of the joy, then everything around you starts to become joyous. That's all I have to say. I hope you have a fantastic day. I took the day off today to study and pray. I've got some training coming up in New York that I need to start preparing for, and I usually don't have time on weekends. So it's a glorious Thursday. Peace out. Love you. Bye.